And so I think it makes this mission a lot of fun. I think we're attracting incredible minds by the hundreds, if not thousands, even in a matter of a couple weeks. And I am optimistic, Marsha, about what that's going to mean for changing the culture of what public service looks like.
Hello and welcome to the DOGE and MAHA News channel. Today in this video, we're going to talk about the Department of Government Efficiency, and we are going to watch an interview that Senator Marsha Blackburn does with Vivek Ramaswamy. But first, I just want to remind you to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell because I'm bringing you new DOGE videos every single day. And if you love this DOGE topic, then you're going to want to make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you are notified every single day when I post a new video on DOGE. So go ahead and do that, and let's get into this video.
And as you know, President Trump has decided, and I think I'm really glad he decided this. It is the Department of Government Efficiency that he has established to really tackle this out-of-control government, and it is going to be led by our guest today, Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk. Vivek, I'm delighted that you were here, and right into this, we are looking at a federal budget that this year the Biden administration has spent $6.75 trillion, and we are over $36 trillion in debt. So where do you start with DOGE?
Look, I think a big part of this, Marsha, as you well know, is the people we elected to run the government, including folks like yourselves and your colleagues, aren't the ones that for the last 20 years, for the last 100 years, really, have been actually running the government and writing the rules. It's been the administrative state.
That's so true. It's not the elected officials that are running the government. It's all the people, all the bureaucrats that work in these different agencies.
So that has created a loss of accountability that also incurs a lot of cost, not to mention these regulatory agencies, the headcount, the amount of regulations they write that imposes indirect costs on the American economy. But that also creates a sloppiness in how that money goes on to be spent.
Good point. There is no accountability for these agencies. They can be sloppy in the way they spend their money. They just get a big budget from Congress and just basically spend it any way they want. They write new regulations, they enforce them, and that not only puts an additional tax regulatory burden on the American people, plus they're actually consuming more of our tax money to burden us with these regulations.
And so one of the low-hanging fruit areas is to look at areas under the executive branch through executive action that we can actually put an end to a lot of the money that hasn't been authorized by Congress but is still being spent.
Put an end to money that has not been authorized by Congress but is still being spent. I think I saw a X post recently where there was roughly $600 billion being spent on programs that their authorization from Congress had expired. Some of them had expired up to 10 years ago, but they were still being allocated money.
A lot of the waste, fraud, and abuse, even in entitlement programs, that are resulting in a lot of frictional cost, and to ultimately tame the administrative state itself back down to the size that would make our founding fathers proud, rather than the sprawling bureaucracy that's really running the show today. And so that's different than usually where historical discussions have gone in partisan debates about cutting costs to address the deficit. It's like, well, which entitlements do you want to cut?
That's a good point. The argument typically is which entitlement are we cutting? And that's why everyone's so afraid to cut entitlements or to make cuts, because they're afraid to cut entitlements when, in fact, you don't have to actually cut entitlements. You can just trim the processes that produce those entitlements. So if we're talking about, for example, Social Security, you can streamline that process, make it more efficient, and save a ton of money, and yet still people are still getting their Social Security checks. So you're not actually cutting from the entitlement, you're cutting from the process that produces the entitlement. And I believe that's what he's talking about right here.
There's a lot lower hanging fruit than that, which is even in the administration of those entitlements, there's a lot of frictional loss of cost, a lot of waste, a lot of fraud, and a lot of administrative overgrowth that we can address through executive action itself. We will want help and partnership with you all in the Senate and in Congress, of course, and I'm happy to talk about that. But I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit to be able to tackle through executive action out the gate. And that's the kind of thing that Elon and I are focused on.
I think if they do that right out of the gate, it'll create a lot of momentum, and Congress will see what's happening, and the people, the American people, will see what's happening, and they will rise up and say, hey, keep doing this, and Congress will have to get on board.
And I think that sounds just as that's the perfect starting point, if you will. And I appreciated that you put on X that you were looking, and I'm going to quote this so I get it right. You need high IQ, small government revolutionaries willing to work 80 plus hours per week on unglamorous cost cutting. And I love the fact that you're trying to bring in some of the brightest minds. So, in addition to this, who else is going to be a part of your team, and where are you looking for individuals to come in and help?
So one of the things that's most remarkable about this is we have seen literally thousands of not just, anybody, of some of the most talented, sharpest technical, legal, entrepreneurial minds in the country. And I'm talking about like at the very, very top tier. I mean, multi-billion-dollar companies that people have founded, that they're ready to leave their life in the private sector to come in for a little bit to help this country. And I think that that's really encouraging because historically, right, I'm a millennial. I've seen the evolution of where my peer group has gone. The glamorous jobs have been on Wall Street or in Silicon Valley or whatever, as the tides have changed over the years. I hope that DOGE plays a role in changing that mindset in the next generation of seeing. Imagine if you see some of the brightest founders, names that, for now, for present purposes, I'm not going to name the kinds of names, but famous people have heard of for building amazing, incredible companies, okay? Stepping in and saying, you know what I want to do? I want to serve the government by actually helping make it more efficient and better serve the taxpayer and the citizens of this country.
Isn't that interesting? It's almost like a high-tech CEO style of like volunteer service. Instead of volunteering to serve in the military to serve your country, there's high-tech, high-value CEO type of people that are volunteering to serve to cut costs in our government. And that to me is really interesting.
That's an example for the next generation where that's a cool place to actually have an impact, to be able to say that you don't have to rise the ranks of some bureaucracy, but it's going to be based on merit, that the most capable people, even if they're young for that matter, can be put in positions of great impact and even authority. I think that could be one of the cooler things to come out of our project, is not just that we're tackling the costs and not just restoring self-governance in America. Those hopefully are important enough, but also maybe a cultural shift in how younger Americans and more talented entrepreneurial minds think about public service.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, for me personally, growing up, public service was something I never even considered. I mean, why would I want to serve this bloated government? I'd rather be off doing other things, pursuing a corporate type of career or building a small business or something like that. And now there's this little opportunity for people to really jump in and contribute in a big way to kind of saving America, at least financially. And boy, that is really interesting to me.
It's actually a cool path to be able to have a big impact. But in order to do that, I think we've got to change what the culture of public service looks like too. And so that's something we're trying to do in the way we're doing this. Elon and I are doing this from the outside. I think that changes things up a little bit. I don't think that a lot of DC insiders have had much success in taming the cost curve in the past.
No, they haven't.
So I credit President Trump for his creativity and his open-mindedness in setting up something different to achieve a different result than we've achieved as a nation in the past. And I think that's what we're up on track to do.
Well, I agree that you are. And indeed, a big part of this is going to be communication. And I appreciate that you all are going to live stream weekly reports. And I would assume you're going to live stream these on X.
Yeah, we're going to do some weekly DOGE casts. I think that's something that Elon and I talked about. And part of the thing is we want to bring the public with us, right? We're all in this together. And one of the things I've found about
weekly DOGE cast. Well, guess what? You'll be able to see that right here on the DOGE and Maha News channel.
this project of tackling waste, fraud, abuse, inefficiency, and bureaucracy is that actually most Americans are on the side of tackling this problem. Even Democrats, Republicans, black, white, doesn't matter. I think this is something that actually can unite the country in a common purpose. President Trump in his announcement called it the potential Manhattan Project of our time. It's a big undertaking. But I do think that if we bring the public along and even allow the public to participate in airing areas where they're encountering government waste or bureaucracy and surface that, we're able to make this something that isn't just top down, but also bottom up.
That's a great point, too. I think all Americans can get behind this. I know there's going to be probably 30% of Americans that are battling this just because it is a Trump, Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy-led initiative. However, honestly, all Americans should get on board with this. We should all be interested in cutting costs, making our government more efficient.
And dare I say, unite the country. We want to do something different with DOGE, which is we've actually put a finite expiry date on it. I think it was Reagan who famously said there's no such thing as a government program that doesn't live. It's the best evidence we have for eternal life. And, I don't think it has to be that way. With DOGE, we've set an expiry date of July 4th, 2026, which is a fitting date because that's the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And we can think of no better gift to give our country on its 250th birthday than a federal government that is massively downsized to a scale and scope that it would make our founders proud. And so I think it makes this mission a lot of fun. I think we're attracting incredible minds by the hundreds, if not thousands, even in a matter of a couple weeks. And I am optimistic, Marsha, about what that's going to mean for changing the culture of what public service looks like in the future. And I do hope that we're able to partner in some ways as well. I think our job could be a lot easier if we have some cooperation with the Senate and Congress to be able to hopefully take power back to the legislature. A lot of the power that's been delegated or ceded over the years to this bureaucracy and the three-letter agencies, we want Congress to take back that power.
Yes, indeed.
Because Congress is accountable to the people. So I expect us to be working in partnership as we restore that republic and save costs.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Congress should be the one responsible for this because they do have some accountability to the voters. These bureaucrats, these government agencies do not have any accountability. They can spend as much money as they want in their budget, and there is no accountability. If they, like, for example, when the Pentagon cannot account for, almost $1 trillion of their budget, there's no one getting fired. There's no one getting demoted. There's nothing happening. There's no litigation. There's no accountability. So it's crazy that you can just get away with this fraud and abuse and neglect and not be held accountable.
That's going to require a bit of teamwork as well, and I hope we'll be doing that with you.
Absolutely. And I know that one of the things that has been helpful to us as we have tried to cut the size of government is hearing from whistleblowers and from people who had worked with government. They know where there is waste. They want to define it. So those individuals that are watching this podcast, should they go to the X account and send that information of here's a great place to look to root out some of this waste?
I would say post it publicly and call our attention to it. And I do think that the more transparency we get, the better. Transparency is the first disinfectant to fight this battle. Yeah, see a problem, you want to solve it, first name it. So we're very open-minded. I know the Senate and the House both have their oversight functions. We think that especially oversight of the bureaucracy will be essential in exposing a lot of this rot. But it's not just for the sake of exposing it. It's for the sake of actually solving the problem as well. On the legislative side, I'd like to see the REINS Act or something like it certainly passed into law, get rid of the non-delegation doctrine, bring power back to Congress. And I think in the process of doing that, I think we're going to expose a lot of rocks we turn over where people will be shocked as to how our taxpayer money has actually been spent. But
That's a fact. I mean, there's already a bunch of crazy stories out there about how our money's been spent, and I've reported on some of that in previous videos. But I mean, it's just going to get even worse and worse and worse. It's going to be shocking. It's going to be funny. It's going to be sad. There's going to be memes. But man, I'm excited for them to actually make changes.
Purpose in exposing it isn't just to do this for shock value. Our purpose in doing it is to actually expose what we intend to solve and help solve.
Fix it.
And I am optimistic. If we can't do it now, by the way, let's just look at it the other way around. If we can't do it with a decisive electoral college and popular vote mandate that President Trump got, of a kind we haven't seen for a Republican in 2 decades, against the backdrop of controlling both chambers of Congress and a 6-3 conservative majority on the Supreme Court, if we can't do it now, it's never going to happen. So it's now or never, the way I look at it. Now's the time for decisive action. And we're coming in as outsiders to do something that I think many DC insiders haven't been able to do. And yeah, look, I think it's going to be one heck of a ride in the next 18 months. But Elon and I are ready for whatever resistance we're going to encounter. And I am optimistic that, we're going to be able to collaborate with you and your colleagues as well.
There's going to be a ton of resistance. I mean, it's already started. They're already thinking of ways to fight this, to battle it. And I mean, they're already starting to accuse DOGE of wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and hurt the American people and all this nonsense.
In the Senate to do some good, both through executive action and eventually through some legislation that prevents this from ever happening again.
Well, we certainly are looking forward to that. I've had legislation to do across-the-board spending cuts, and it's hard to get that passed and get that agreement. I also have legislation that would freeze federal salaries and freeze federal hiring until we can get some of these recommendations from DOGE put into place. I also have a bill that would look at the federal bureaucracy and move from a tenure giving you a promotion to merit giving you a promotion. And those are things that need to be enacted. We are just so pleased that President Trump.
Yeah, that's really important too. I mean, in these agencies, you get promoted based on how long you've been there, not on your merit, not on how hard you work or the projects that you deliver. It's all about length of time. So you're incentivized to stay there longer and longer and longer. And so you just get more sucked into the swamp. You get deeper and deeper into the swamp. And your main incentive is to maintain your little kingdom, your little agency, and just make sure you continue to get the big budget that you got the year before, plus 10% or whatever, so you can continue to grow year after year after year and maintain your status quo. Well, it's time to cut that.
Trump has said now's the time. We're so pleased that he has said that you and Elon are the people to make this happen, and we are so looking forward to working with you on this.
Okay, I thought that was really interesting. I'm really excited to see DOGE when they can first launch and start taking action with those executive actions. I'm sure that behind the scenes they're already looking at the agencies, looking at the spending, trying to determine what they can cut like right away. So I'm sure they have like a plan, things that they're going to get done within the first week, 2 weeks, month. And so I'm really excited. I'm sure it's just going to be headline after headline after headline. It's going to be a really fun ride. So if you want to follow the DOGE story, you're going to want to make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because I'm going to bring you all the latest DOGE information every single day. So do that. Also, if you're interested in watching some of my other DOGE videos, I'm going to go ahead and put a playlist right here. So check that out. And I just want to thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.